What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Yammy Noob. Today we're going to be talking about whether or not you should upgrade or downgrade your motorcycle. And remember, this is actually part of the larger Yamcast episodes that we do. So if you want to check those out, make sure you're subscribed and notified on the channel with the little bell down below. Now we're going to get started figuring out if you should upgrade or downgrade your bike with the DM portion of the podcast. Alrighty, Spike. Upgrade or downgrade, you've chosen to simp for upgrade. Yes. So explain, why should you upgrade your motorcycle?
Okay, so I see it in a couple of ways. Obviously, you're getting a bigger bike because you've outgrown whatever starter bike you have.
Totally fair. More yeet.
And I think that there's a lot to be said for keeping that little bike that you have to go back to and have it in the garage. But let's face it, there's a lot of times you get that new bike and then the other one just sort of sits in the garage forever.
Yeah.
You're like, I could ride you, but you're slow and sort of dinky, and you got a lot of miles on the belt. Let's go with the new toy, right?
New toy, yep.
A lot of that happened with the DRZ when I got the SMCR, where I was just like, why do I own this DRZ anymore?
Oh, for sure.
Because the SMCR was just so much nicer.
It was such a like-for-like upgrade, too.
Yeah.
The riding experience literally was the same, but just better in every way.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot to be said for upgrading when you've outgrown your beginner bike. But I would also say that if you're somebody who's like on a 650, and you want something with just a little bit more juice, you should definitely upgrade. Because a lot of times you've gone and got your beginner bike, then you get the 650 as your stepping stone motorcycle. And I think it's fair to assume that, sure, you could stop at a 650.
Yeah.
All day long, you could stop at a 650.
Well, you shouldn't.
I think, you should probably move on to something with a little bit more chutzpah, something that's a little bit more interesting, because they have cooler tech on them, too. We are seeing in the world trickle down happening a lot more, but there is still tech that's reserved for the big bikes that you can't get on the smaller machines.
Yeah, cruise control, rider modes. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff.
You could also argue that on bikes like the Tuono 660 and the RS 660, for example, I could see somebody being like, sport mode is all you need. There. Sure, you have road mode and you have rain mode, but it's only 100 horsepower, you know?
Yeah.
You don't need all those different modes on there.
Yeah.
So I could see Aprilia cutting all that, cut the price of the bike.
Oh, man. I said that since we got that bike, the R660, last year. I was like, they need to make like an SP version and like an R version. The R version is everything you need, nothing you don't.
Yep.
I would love that, but it's not feasible.
Yeah, and so at that point, you could argue that, maybe going from the RS to, maybe like a 600 that's got your traction control, your rider modes that actually matter, stuff like that, so that you could use something more in its element. And that leads me to my next point, is once you start getting into that expert level, that sort of expert tier, you see bikes specialize a lot more. So we have, the Super Adventure, which is really like adventure touring. Because let's be honest, 150 horsepower off-road is just wheel spin anyway. But you do see a lot more specialization. They're a lot better at the task of, crushing big miles.
Yeah.
Flagship touring bikes, super sports, when they get into the top tier, they're weapons. So much so that the average human being can't actually use them.
No.
And you do see that a little bit with the Hypernakeds too. Yeah. They're really specialized at doing what they do, which is like snap on a crap ton of torque now would be really exciting.
And that's actually a point I was going to make about upgrading is I think it's really important that somewhere along your riding journey, you should have a bike, even if it's for 6 months, a year, that scares the out of you.
Yeah.
100%. Because it will teach you a lot about motorcycling to own a motorcycle that scares the absolute bejesus out of you. Because then you'll ride normal bikes and be like, oh, this is really nice. This is good. This is nice. I've seen what the dark nadir of Turbo Busas look like. I don't need to go there. I want to be more here,
Yeah.
So just having that experience in upgrading is nice.
Yeah, you get to see a lot more of what motorcycling has to offer.
Yeah.
And honestly, when it comes to super sports in particular, it makes me appreciate what racers do all the more.
Yeah, dude.
Because I've ridden a bunch of leader bikes now. How the hell can y'all do that? That's wild.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
So I think upgrading and experiencing these bigger bikes really can just improve your appreciation of motorcycles.
Yeah.
But I would argue that there also is probably a point where you have gone too far. You've lost the plot.
Totally. And that's where I would come in and say it might be time to downgrade your motorcycle. I think there's lots of pros to downgrading your bike. The first thing I think of is, at least for me, a cheap bike's a fun bike, man.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the flagship bikes, you end up babying them and coddling them, and you end up like not wanting to take them out when it's wet, or you don't want to do things with them. Or I see so often on our Discord, they're like, well, I don't want to go to a track day because I might crash my bike. Or I'm like, well, as long as you're okay, what does it matter if you crash your bike or not, you know? You shouldn't be that worried about your bike, which is why I often say that for the second motorcycle, if you're truly trying to get good at riding, a cheapo dual sport is one of the best bang for bucks that you can get. And it's quote-unquote a downgrade, right? Let's say you start on an MT-07 or a Trident 660, and then you go and get some beater KLX 250.
It's going to be slow as
It's going to be slow. It's going to feel like it's going to be wonky, but once you start riding it and you realize, oh my God, I can just yeet this thing and I don't even care. That kind of freedom is really nice, you know?
Yeah.
I would say even for track bikes too. A lot of guys go out to the track on these $30,000 BMWs, Ducatis, R1s, and bullshit, and they don't get good and they don't figure out how to ride it, but all you need is a little $5,000 beater SV650. And then you'll have so much more fun. So downgrading can be a lot of fun if you do it right. Now, I think downgrading like for like doesn't make a lot of sense. If you are on a big bad hyper naked, I think you should downgrade sort of down and to the side in terms of categories. You should get something like a mid-size sport touring bike or a dual sport or something a little different, because I feel like if you're on a big leader bike, if you only know that, you're going to be bored just going straight to the 600. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I also feel like, though, you could make the argument that if you're on that big bad leader bike and you're a street squid, you're going to have more fun street squidding on a 600.
I agree.
So I see one of the biggest points about downgrading like for like is being able to ride the bike more.
Yeah.
You can get
use
more
of it. Yeah, because a lot of these flagship bikes, especially the super bikes, I mean, first gear ends at 80, 90 miles an hour. That's just boring, you know? Like I was riding my Husky the other day, doing a nice little dual sport ride, going out some trails, doing out some normal stuff and street stuff. And it's fun to go from a stoplight and go through 5 gears, you know? You're just like, whop, 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 whop. Like, it's exciting. It makes it interesting. I think there's lots of benefits to downgrading. I think that your skill set will massively increase when you downgrade because you don't care as much about the bike. And if you already have the experience, you'll start to just disrespect the bike just to see what'll happen, you know? You'll be able to get the rear out a little bit and slide it. You'll be able to try wheelies. You'll be able to do stuff you maybe wouldn't try on a super nice fancy bike. Like our cheapo giveaway bikes, I pretty much try to wheelie all of them. I have certainly not tried to wheelie the Speed Triple 1200 Double R because number one, I have a lot of respect for it, and number two, if anything were to happen to it, I would be very upset. Whereas if I dropped the Royal Enfield, I'd be like, it kind of sucks, but you know.
Yeah,
I like that about it.
You have a lot more freedom. I think that's the thing that you start out with is, and it is so true.
Yeah,
the ability to just free yourself from worry if something happens. So that's a huge boon for downgrading.
Mods are cheaper too on the little bikes and the dumb bikes. You don't have to spend as much money doing tires are cheaper for them. So if you are value conscious, getting a downgrade and getting an N+1 mentality going with it can be sweet, right? Like if you're thinking about trading in your 650 to get a 890 or a street triple or whatever, maybe consider adding a cheapo bike to the fleet instead of getting rid of your bike to get a nicer bike. That would be my thing.
Yeah. I mean, just personally, I would not have sent the Pan Am through the puddles that I sent the KLR through. You know? Like, I would not have done that.
Yeah.
But then again, I wouldn't have attempted 2,000 miles on the KLR with the same gusto that I did on the Pan America. So I can see both sides of the coin.
Definitely. But now let's see what the Discord boys have to say about upgrading or downgrading. Full Motor Corgi says, I need to upgrade the Turbo Busa with panniers and a backrest for hyper touring and dad mode. Eat your heart out, ADV dads. Busa dads are the future. So I guess upgrading your bike in terms of the mods to it or the capability of it. Some bikes can do that and other bikes can't, you know?
I saw a Gen 3 Busa the other day. Full-blown Hayabusa man, stock bike.
Love it.
With the panniers on it.
Hell
like
yes.
it had the Suzuki factory panniers
yes.
on it. They're huge, dude. They're huge panniers.
Well, it's already a big old bike, you know? One of our buddies came through here for our little bike swap thing we did the other weekend, and he got on the bike on the Turbo Busa, and he said, oh my God, it's a hot tub.
It's huge.
It's big. It's a big bike. Ride Red says, upgrade versus downgrade. Current bike in 07 CBR 1000 RR. In terms of horsepower downgrade, for sure. Torque ideally similar or more. Features wanting upgrade, thinking Africa Twin or Scrambler 1200 when I can afford it. That would be an interesting... I don't even know if that's a downgrade to go to a Scrambler 1200. That's a nice bike.
That is a nice bike. A lot of people look at downgrade as spec sheet.
Spec sheet.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
So many people are like, you have the best bike because it makes the most power. But
I have the best bike.
Yeah.
I make the most power.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear from you or Josh or Whitney or Derek. My bike makes the most power.
Yeah,
I have the best bike.
that's the argument people make is
it's
because
so dumb.
It limits your scope of motorcycling.
Totally.
Because
power feels different too.
It really does.
Like my Husky's a animal, but it makes like 48 horsepower.
Yeah, and the Busa's like down low. It's sort of a kitten.
Yeah,
which is weird to say.
Doesn't do much. Just poodle along. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I personally, if you're asking for our opinion, Ride Red, I'd say that Scrambler 1200 would be sweet.
I would take it over the Africa Twin.
I would too. Yeah, that's a nice bike. Choco Cow or Coco Cow. Here's my take on upgrade or downgrade topic. I think it's a gray area, and to me, it very much depends on what you have experienced previously. For me, I have had bikes all over the spectrum: a 95 VFR, 94 KDX 200, nice, a 2004 Buell XB12, a 2006 Triumph Sprint ST 1050, and a 2011 V-Strom 650. So for me, I would downgrade from the V-Strom and get a dual sport of some kind if I could. If someone has not ridden a larger bike, I would say to upgrade just to know what it is like. But at the end of the day, I would tell people just to chase what kind of bike they want. That's a really important thing too, is to just like, don't overthink and get the bike you want. If you want to try the street squid life, get a leader bike, try it out. Maybe you like it for a year and then you want to get something else. Motorcycles kind of come and go, catch and release,
That's one of the things that like people keep asking me why I got the KLR.
Oh, so often.
Instead of getting a proper adventure bike. I really wanted a KLR.
The KLR is a proper adventure bike.
Well, they were like, oh, Tenere 700. And I was like, yeah, sure.
Good luck finding one, though.
But I wanted the KLR.
Yeah.
Because it's stupid, it's slow, and I could beat the it.
Yeah.
Stank Nooner is next.
Okay, as a point of reference, I started on a carbed Sportster 883, so I upgraded to a brand new 2022 MT-07. Honestly, that's a big upgrade. It's funny because it's a smaller displacement, but huge upgrade.
Because it probably felt like a rocket ship.
For sure. He's probably like, whoa! But it's an MT-07. Says, but I have no experience in a top-line bike. As a simp to the MT-07 and that CP2, everyone just needs an MT-07. Whether that is an upgrade or downgrade is irrelevant. Smiles per gallon, my dudes. Spoken like a true MT-07 owner.
Honestly, anything in that like 700-ish cc, you're going to be having a great time.
Yeah.
Whether it's the Thumper from KTM, whether it's the CP2 from Yamaha,
yeah,
whether it's the 660 from Aprilia, you're going to have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Right around 700 cc's. They're light, they're torquey.
Yeah.
Handle really well.
Usually very street focused too.
Very street focused.
They're not super racy. Yeah, I mean, I'm like thrilled for us to do the 210 660 later this year.
Can't wait.
Just to ride the 660 again, I'm like, oh yeah.
To get an exhaust on there.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Such a great sound.
It's a great bike. All right, guys, that's going to wrap up this section of the upgrade or downgrade question. If you liked what you saw, make sure you watch all of the Yamcast and enjoy, or if you're watching this right now on the Yamcast, enjoy it as well. Now we're going to move on to the final portion of the podcast. Keep watching Amy Noob!